3-2. Fly ball, deep left field. Back on to Jeffries and Stark, and it's gone! It's gone! It's a grand slam for Kyler Murray! Oh, mama! The QB unloads him.
I hope Kyler Murray fails. And before Viking fans start cooking me in the comments, no, I don't hate Kyler Murray. I don't want this dude to get injured. I don't want him to lose all his money. Nor do I have some weird personal vendetta against a man I've never met. Actually, it's almost the complete opposite, because as of right now, Kyler Murray is getting another chance. After 7 years in Arizona, 2 Pro Bowls, an Offensive Rookie of the Year award, multiple injuries, 1 playoff appearance, and ultimately getting released by the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is officially the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings for the 2026 season. He beat out JJ McCarthy for the job, and at 29 years old, he now gets another opportunity to prove that his best football isn't behind him, and genuinely, I hope it works. But there is this tiny selfish part of me that looks at Kyler Murray's career and thinks, what if it doesn't? Because if this next chapter of Kyler Murray's football career eventually comes to an end, I want him to do something completely insane. I want Kyler Murray to play baseball. And I'm not talking about throwing out a first pitch. I'm not talking about showing up to spring training for a publicity stunt. I'm talking about actually trying to become a Major League Baseball player. Because whether people realize it or not, Kyler Murray might be our last realistic chance at seeing something professional sports used to give us. But basically, it's become extinct over the years. A true 2-sport athlete. Now, whenever an NFL player has a baseball background, people tend to exaggerate it. You'll hear, oh, Patrick Mahomes played baseball, Russell Wilson played baseball, or this guy was an all-state shortstop. Cool. Kyler Murray was completely different. In 2018 at Oklahoma, Kyler hit 296 with a 398 on-base percentage and a 556 slugging percentage. He had 10 home runs, drove in 47 of them, and stole 10 bases. And all of it while playing center field. And Major League Baseball teams weren't looking at that and thinking, hey, maybe we'll take a flyer on this football player in the 35th round. No. The then Oakland Athletics selected Kyler Murray 9th overall in the 2018 MLB Draft. 9th. There were thousands of amateur baseball players available in that draft, and the A's looked at Kyler Murray and decided there were only 8 baseball players that they wanted more. Their scouting department described him as a rare athlete, praised how advanced he was despite splitting his time with football, and believed his athleticism could make him an impact player offensively and defensively. MLB Pipeline had him ranked as the number 36th overall draft prospect despite all of the uncertainty surrounding whether or not he'd even choose baseball. Of course, the A's then go on to sign him for a reported $4.66 million signing bonus and did something pretty unusual. They let him go back to Oklahoma and play 1 more season of college football before reporting to baseball. That sounds hilarious in hindsight, and actually doing a little bit of research, the only other comparison of somebody doing that in sports is Larry Bird. See, when the Celtics drafted him, he went back to college to play 1 more season, whilst the Boston Celtics retained his rights. That way he can't re-enter the draft and get selected by somebody else. But other than that, this is unheard of. But what makes Kyler's story even more incredible was that 1 more season changed everything. Kyler Murray went on to win the freaking Heisman Trophy, and suddenly, baseball's 9th overall pick wasn't just some college quarterback anymore. He became one of the hottest quarterback prospects in the country, and in February of 2019, Kyler made his decision. Football. He returned most of the baseball money, walked away from the A's and entered the NFL draft, and went on to get selected 1st overall by the Arizona Cardinals. And just like that, without him ever stepping on the gridiron or a professional diamond, Kyler Murray became the first player in history to be selected in the 1st round of both the MLB Draft and the NFL Draft. It wasn't Bo Jackson nor Deion Sanders, it was Kyler Murray. So when I say I want to see Kyler play baseball, I'm not proposing some Michael Jordan style celebrity experiment. This guy was legitimately projected to become a Major League Baseball player. Now here's where I don't want anybody rewriting history. Kyler Murray made the correct decision. Football worked. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2019. He made a Pro Bowl in 2020 and another one the following season. And in that same 2021 season, the Cardinals also made the playoffs. So despite the way his Arizona run eventually ended, Kyler has accumulated more than 20,000 passing yards, 3,000 rushing yards, and 150 combined passing and rushing touchdowns in his NFL career. More importantly, the man got paid. In 2022, Arizona gave him a massive 5-year extension, reportedly worth $230.5 million. Spotrac currently lists his NFL career earnings at roughly $170 million, and even after releasing him this offseason, Arizona still owes him $36.8 million in guarantees for the 2026 season alone. Taking advantage of that situation, Minnesota ended up signing him to a 1-year, $1.3 million deal. So financially, Kyler Murray won. He doesn't need baseball to save him. He doesn't need baseball to provide for his family. Nor, if he enters baseball, will the narrative of Kyler having a failed football career be a viable one, because it simply wouldn't be true. But ironically, these may be the reasons why I think the idea is so fascinating. If football eventually tells him we're done, Kyler Murray would have the financial freedom to respond, alright, I've got something else I've always wanted to do. And we've seen this before, and that's where this story becomes bigger than Kyler Murray. It was a time when the idea of somebody playing 2 major professional sports wasn't completely insane. The poster child is obviously Bo Jackson, and Bo played Major League Baseball from 1986 through the 1994 season, and simultaneously while playing MLB Baseball, he was also the running back for the Raiders between 1987 through 1990. And when I say that he played these sports, I don't mean he was barely hanging around either roster. Bo ended up becoming an MLB All-Star and the 1989 All-Star Game MVP, and the following season he became an NFL Pro Bowler. To this day, Bo remains the only athlete to have been both an MLB All-Star and an NFL Pro Bowler. Think about how ridiculous that is. Imagine one of the best players of your favorite baseball team finishing his season, and then you're watching him run people over on Monday Night Football. And somehow, Bo wasn't alone, because at basically the exact same time, Deion Sanders was doing it too. Deion ended up playing 641 Major League games while also building a Hall of Fame NFL career. He played baseball during 9 of his 14 NFL seasons. He stole 186 Major League bases and hit 533 in the 1992 World Series. And to this day, he remains the only person in history to appear in both a World Series and a Super Bowl. And at one point in 1992, Deion even attempted something that sounds like a movie plot. He played an NFL game for the Atlanta Falcons in Miami and then traveled to Pittsburgh in an attempt to join the Braves for an NLCS game that very same day. Now, he didn't end up appearing in the baseball game, but the fact that this was even possible tells you how different that era felt. Then of course, there was the lesser known Brian Jordan, former NFL defensive back with the Falcons, leaves football and becomes an MLB All-Star and plays baseball for 15 years. And if you go back further, you find even crazier combinations. Guys like Dave DeBusschere played in the MLB before becoming an NBA Hall of Famer, or Gene Conley, who won championships in both Major League Baseball and the NBA. Professional sports history is filled with these weird athletic crossovers, but today, they're practically extinct. And I don't think it's because athletes suddenly became less talented. If anything, modern sports are filled with absolute freaks nowadays. The problem is that the entire system around those athletes have changed. Sports became more specialized. Kids specialize earlier. Professional teams invest enormous amounts of money into individual players. Heck, over the last couple of seasons, we've seen 2 Major League Baseball players earn contracts over $700 million. That is absolutely ridiculous, no matter what context you put that in. And that's not to mention that the training has become a 12-month operation. Football players aren't just showing up in August anymore. They're learning full systems, training with receivers, rehabilitating injuries, attending off-season programs, and preparing their bodies specifically for football. And baseball isn't something that you can casually disappear from either. MLB hitters are facing pitchers throwing 98 miles an hour plus, with sliders moving like they're controlled by somebody playing MLB The Show. Missing years of competitive at-bats matters. And most importantly, teams don't want their $100 million investment getting hurt playing somebody else's sport. Kyler himself encountered that reality. In 2021, while he was still with Arizona, he openly admitted that if he had the opportunity to play baseball, he would be interested. He said that he thought he could still play, but his Cardinals contract at the time prohibited from playing baseball, which makes all the sense in the world. But that one sentence basically explains why Bo and Deion feel impossible today. There's too much money involved, too much specialization, and simply too much risk. An NFL franchise isn't paying a quarterback hundreds of millions of dollars and then happily watching him dive headfirst into second base in the middle of July. But here's the crazy part. Kyler Murray's baseball story isn't technically over. When he chose football in 2019, the Athletics placed him on Major League Baseball's restricted list. Oakland retained his baseball rights, and they still have them to this very day. And this isn't some contract technicality nobody cares about either. When Arizona announced it was moving on from Kyler in March of 2026, former A's GM David Force was specifically asked whether the organization would consider bringing him back. The answer was essentially, the door is still open. Force told MLB.com that Kyler and his representatives know know the Athletics would be open to him exploring a return to baseball if that time ever comes. MLB's report made clear that the organization still holds his rights and would have a place for him if he seriously attempted a comeback. That blew my mind, because this isn't a hypothetical anymore. There's literally an MLB organization sitting there saying, if you ever want to try this, call us. But this is where I have to ruin the fantasy a little bit for all of us. Kyler just turned 29 years old. He hasn't played an official baseball game since college in 2018. That's 8 years without competitive baseball. He's never played a professional minor league game either, and baseball might be one of the worst sports imaginable to take an 8-year break from. So no, I don't realistically think Kyler Murray can finish an NFL season, grab a baseball glove, and show up the next afternoon and start in center field for the A's. That's ridiculous. However, if this ever does happen, he would almost certainly need significant developmental time. Spring training, minor league ABs, thousands and thousands of swings, and learning professional pitching. Forget about trying to hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. How about an 85-mile-an-hour breaking ball? And ultimately rebuilding baseball-specific instincts that haven't been tested against professional competition in nearly a decade. And I know 29 is still young, but age does matter. Bo Jackson was 24 when he debuted in the MLB. Deion Sanders was 21. Kyler would be beginning his professional baseball development at 29 or potentially even older given the developmental path. And that is a gigantic difference, folks. MLB itself described the chances of Kyler making the jump as incredibly slim when the possibility resurfaced this year. So would I bet on Kyler Murray becoming a great Major League Baseball player? Absolutely not. Would I bet on him becoming an MLB player at all? Probably not, but that's not really the point, because I would rather watch somebody attempt something nearly impossible than spend the next 20 years wondering if they could have done it. Just look at the spectacle Shohei Ohtani's putting on with him hitting and pitching at the same time. But all of this brings us back to Minnesota. The funny part is that Kyler Murray might completely destroy this entire video because he just won the Vikings starting job. Kevin O'Connell has talked about his accuracy, his athleticism, his understanding of the offense, and what Minnesota believes he can become in their system. And maybe Kyler balls out. Maybe Minnesota does revitalize his career. Maybe he's their quarterback for another 4 or 5 seasons, and if that happens, good for him. Seriously, football was his first choice. I remember him saying all the way back in 2019 that football was his love and passion and that he wanted to dedicate himself completely to becoming an NFL quarterback. So I can't really sit here and tell another man to abandon the thing he actually loves because I want to be entertained. However, if this Vikings experiment doesn't work, if a year or 2 from now Kyler Murray looks around and realizes that NFL teams no longer see him as a franchise QB, don't retire. Don't disappear to play golf for the rest of your life. Please call the A's, because you're already financially set. You've already been the first round pick. You've already been a Pro Bowler. You've already scored touchdowns in the NFL and made football history. Why not go out and make some weird history? Go ride some buses in the minor leagues. Go strike out against some 22-year-old throwing 100 miles an hour. And if you hit 180 for 2 months, I don't care. Just try. Because if Kyler Murray can somehow work his way through the minor leagues and eventually walk onto a major league field, he wouldn't need to become Bo Jackson. He wouldn't need to become Deion Sanders. The accomplishment alone would be ridiculous. A man becoming a legitimate NFL star, walking away from competitive baseball for nearly a decade, and then reaching the MLB in his 30s, I'd watch every second of that. And maybe that's really what I miss about the whole two-sport athlete thing. It wasn't just about greatness, it was the absurdity of it. I mean, Bo Jackson felt impossible. With Deion Sanders, I felt the same way. They made professional sports feel a little less manufactured and a little more like, wait, how the hell is this dude doing this? Kyler Murray is one of the last athletes where that question still feels even remotely possible. The first player ever drafted in the first round of both Major League Baseball and the NFL. And this wasn't some drafted first round 30th pick. This is a former top 10 MLB pick and a former #1 overall NFL pick. And 8 years later, that same baseball team that drafted him is still waiting in the wings for him. So Kyler, I hope you have an incredible season in Minnesota, but if you don't, you already know where I'm hoping you go next. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Kyler Murray could still make it to the MLB if he's seriously committed to it? And more importantly, who do you think is the next athlete capable of legitimately playing 2 professional sports? Because going down this rabbit hole made me realize that there are way more ridiculous 2-sport careers than just Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. And I think we're gonna have to rank those next. So with that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching again, and until next time, Jahji. Out.